Salve! Hello, my name is Sherry Roush. I'm the editor and translator from the Italian of PHILETO'S story by Lodovico Corfino. This prose romance, written around 1520, follows two young lovers from Verona, but these two are nothing like Romeo and Juliet. I will read from chapter 5 today. Phileto has tried to contract marriage with the family of his beloved Euphrosyne, but has been rebuffed due to a perceived lack of wealth. So he aims to renegotiate after sneaking into Euphrosyne's bedroom and forcing sex on her. Here goes. Now it seemed my happiness lacked only the anticipated wedding, which I hoped to celebrate in short order. But inconstant fortune, as if ruining the ample gifts that she had already given me, eventually showed her perfidy. A young nobleman of our city named Eugenio Montano was equally taken by beautiful Euphrosyne. Although she never encouraged him, and he knew perfectly well that his efforts and time were wasted, he still burned for her and sought to exceed the bounds of friendship. Not managing to otherwise conquer her, he figured he might try to make her his wife. He acted on this thought and asked her mother and relatives for her hand. And he received no denial or objection at all. When this news reached my ears, I almost died. I didn't doubt Euphrosyne's faithfulness, but the mobility of her sex? I realized that if I did not act right away, I would get nothing but eternal woe. So I hurried to the convent of Saint Euphemia, where I knew I could find Brother Anselmo, Euphrosyne's confessor. I divulged my fears to him, and with 1,000 prayers, exhorted him to find some way, whatever he thought best, to speak to Euphrosyne's mother and convince her not to allow the engagement between Eugenio and Euphrosyne to take place, given that a prior engagement had been contracted with me. I also reminded him of the grave consequences that might follow if they went ahead with it. The friar, who was a clever man, was moved by true compassion and did not deny my just request. On the contrary, he set in motion all that I proposed, and because he knew the truth, he even found reasons to tell Eugenio to look for a wife elsewhere, which gave me cause to hope that I might receive what I desired more than anything else in the world. Euphrosyne's mother had learned about our love. Indeed, she knew precisely what had already come to pass, and this greatly pained her. But she didn't do what many mothers would have done, that is, make a fuss. Instead, she prudently strategized before word got out how best to redress her daughter's shame. She called her relatives together, that is, all the closest relations, and told them she wanted to marry off her daughter, though not to Eugenio, to whom she was engaged, but to me, who had asked first and should be preferred to others because that was just. They argued that I was not from a very rich family and thus should not be considered because it was sheer folly merely to entertain that notion. But she countered, I fully expected this objection from you, but tell me, what more does Eugenio have compared to Phileto? If Eugenio is noble, Phileto was not born in a sheep pen, and is no less a gentleman, nor any less honorably endowed by generous parents. Moreover, from his ancestors, on both the maternal and paternal sides, he possesses greater nobility than anyone thinks. Besides, he is not so stripped of fortune's goods that he cannot seek out new ventures among the honorable citizenry of this city. Although Eugenio abounds in fortune's favors now, consider carefully his other aspects. Look at his character, which we should weigh more heavily than his current wealth, since fortune can take wealth away as quickly as she gives it. If you think about these issues and not just the opinions of common folk, I am sure you will wisely praise my sound recommendation. The worthy men of her family suspected she knew something more on this matter than they did, and remained silent. Seeing that this was what she wanted, they praised her choice, and a date for our eagerly anticipated wedding was set for a few days later. Word of it spread far and wide, and when Eugenio heard, he felt unimaginable pain. He armed himself against me with such hate that if he could not obtain what he had hoped for and had been promised, then he aimed to keep me from celebrating my wedding as well. Once his plan was formed, he carried it out, even if it put him at great risk. Because I had some inkling of his intent, I went about well armed and prepared. One morning, a few days later, I left my house around 3 hours after sunrise with my dearest friend to hear Mass at our basilica. Eugenio and 2 of his men attacked me, so I drew my sword and defended myself. I managed so well that even though he thought he'd kill me, I killed him. When people heard shouts and the clashing of weapons, they rushed to that place and saw the fatal blow I dealt to Eugenio. But since I had no other witnesses to testify that Eugenio had provoked me, I was forced by our severe homicide laws to abandon my country and go into exile or lose my head. This meant I would have to leave Euphrosyne when I was on the verge of acquiring what I had suffered for and toiled so long to gain, the lady whom I loved more than anything in the world and without whom life and every other good only annoyed me. Well, if I grieved and regretted it, that must be clear to the reader without me having to say more. But Phileto does say much more about it. I hope you will continue his journey and his story. Tell me what you think. Thanks so much.